Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective. With pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Friday, November 26th, a happy Black Friday to people south of the border in the United States. The day after Thanksgiving, hopefully all the turkey and all the wine, all the booze, whatever the case may be, is settled in your tummies all nice and you're feeling all right today, the day after Thanksgiving, and ready for a huge day of sports, and in particular, for the purposes of this show, a huge day of hockey, an unbelievable big card of hockey. 13 NHL games on this Friday, and as always, we'll break them all down, each and every game right here on the Ice Guys show. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, will have Jimmy Murphy possibly with us at some point, and Andrew McInnis as well, ready to break down this Friday NHL card. So with that in mind, let's get right to it. Normally we go in betting rotation order, but for some reason, because of the changes that have been made to the schedule for TV purposes, the games aren't going in order of start time on the betting rotation screen. So we will start with the actual first game of the day, even though it's the third game in terms of the betting rotation order, and that's the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins. We've got Boston minus 155 to minus 160, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. Should be a good one to get the day started. This is an ABC game. This will be the first ABC game in this NHL on ESPN deal, ESPN production, obviously, but the game will be on ABC, and they'll have a few games on ABC. And I think the Stanley Cup final, if I'm not mistaken, is on ABC as well. So ABC for this one, Rangers and Bruins. Should be a great game. Two teams playing some pretty good hockey, especially the Rangers. They come into this game really playing well. 12-7 now on the year, entering this matchup against the Boston Bruins. They are 6-1 in their last 7 games. They have beaten some pretty decent teams as well during that stretch. They beat the Florida Panthers, of course, during that run, and of course took down a depleted Islanders team in their last game by a score of 4-1. Boston's playing some pretty solid hockey as well. We can't take that away from them. 5-2, their last 7. The only losses coming against Edmonton, one of the best teams in the NHL, and then a 4-0 shutout loss to Calgary over the weekend. We've kind of talked about this with the Boston Bruins on this show. It's been a theme, how they've been more of an over team this year. They've either scored goals or they've given up more goals, and the reason they've given up more is because the defending in their own zone just hasn't been quite as good for them. That's been a little bit of a struggle, and it's really been noticeable against, the better teams. And Charlie McAvoy, who, of course, has become one of the most important defensemen probably on this hockey team, there's some question whether he's going to be able to suit up here for this game, but I think he's going to go. They sounded optimistic. He had to get some stitches. He got boarded from behind late in that game against Buffalo the other night by Zemgus Girgensson. It earned him a 5-minute major in that game. I expect him to play, but we'll see. I mean, they're going to obviously hit the ice for pregame skate pretty soon with this game starting at 1 Eastern, so keep an eye on that. I like the way the Rangers are going, and I'm going to bet the Rangers here at this underdog price, plus 150. I think it's gotten to the point where it's a little bit too rich to me for the Boston Bruins. I mean, this line opened minus 145. It's now minus 165, and it seems that's the case with a lot of Boston games, especially at home. They get bet quite a bit. There's a lot of betting market support for the Boston Bruins, especially in spots like this where they're at home. It's a national TV game, an afternoon game. But I can't ignore how good the Rangers are playing, nor can I ignore how good Igor Shesterkin, who is confirmed to be the starting goalie for the Rangers, how good he's played. And the Bruins still, I have question marks about how well they're playing in their own zone. And that could show up here against a Rangers team that we know can fill it up and score goals in bunches. A Rangers team that has been doing that lately. When you look at their numbers, they have scored 4 goals or more. The New York Rangers in it looks like 5 of their last or 6 of their last 7 games, or 6 of their last 7. They have scored 3 goals or more. So they have done a good job finding the back of the net. So I like the Rangers here, and I'm going to stick with it because it's been working with these Bruin games over the total. Now, the one concern is you're going to have a Swayman and Shesterkin matchup. Swayman's been the best goalie by far for Boston, and we know Shesterkin's been great. But you're talking 5.5. You're talking about still a Bruins team that's been trending over the total. So I'm going to go with that over here today. Although I think I like the Rangers side at that plus 150 price, which is the best price you can get right now in this game. I think I like the side even more in this one. And I'm going to throw out a couple props as well for this game because I think there's some good ones, especially on the Rangers side of the equation to take advantage of in this game. When you look at it for the Rangers, Capo Caco is someone that we know has always had the talent, the ability, first round pick of the Rangers, and he has really revved it up after a tough start to the year. He's had a point in 5 straight games. He's had 3 goals and 3 assists during that span. He is now getting top line minutes for Gerard Gallant on this top line for the Rangers with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad. And boy, that line could be a handful today for the Rangers. So Kakko at plus 300 to score a goal. That's the kind of value I'm not passing up in this game. A guy that's going to get top line minutes, a guy that's on a 5-game point streak, 3 goals during that 5-game span at plus 300. Sign me up for that. For a guy that's really starting to show you the kind of offensive, game breaker he could be when he was drafted by the Rangers a couple years ago. So Capo Caco plus 300, I think, is a great goal scorer prop value in this one. Alex, what are your thoughts here? ABC, national TV, Rangers, Bruins.
Yeah, it's the first game on ABC since June 7th, 2004, which was game 7 of the Lightning and Flames Stanley Cup final before the lockout, of course. And, it's interesting. Like I said, the reason why this is kind of flipped around on the rotation schedule is because Hawks and Blues were supposed to be the ABC game, but obviously with the way the Hawks had kind of fallen off. And I think also, too, obviously the things that happened behind the scenes with the Hawks probably played a reason why this game's been moved. And that's something to kind of keep a note of because that change now we got 2 teams that normally play at these early times. I mentioned this often about weekend games, about how there's some teams that get a lot of these 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock starts on Saturdays and Sundays. Although today's a Friday, but it feels like a Saturday kind of. And so the Rangers and Bruins are 2 teams that are familiar with playing at this early start time, moving the Blues and Hawks to even kind of weirder 2:30 local start. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as far as this game goes, I like the Rangers here as well. Like I said, I think this price is just a tad bit inflated. And this feels like it could be, even though the series history says it would be lower scoring, 8 of the last 10 have gone under. But both these teams are in form right now where they've been scoring goals left and right and been playing in higher scoring games. We got super lucky to cash that over in that last Boston game. 5 goals in the first period, and then all of a sudden we're just sitting on our hands waiting for that third
You
goal.
better believe it. I thought you got to be shitting me. 4-1 after the first period, and we're going to lose this son of a bitch. You got
that would have been one of the worst beats probably in the last like 4 or 5 years. It's probably since we've been doing this show for sure. I can't remember a beat that bad, but thankfully cashed. We got a random power play goal late. We get to 5-1, but now they're 5 of over. Boston's over in 5 of the last 6. Rangers over in 6 of their last 9. I don't know. Like I said, the early start time, maybe you can get a better adjusted, number and price. I mean, 5.5 is not bad, but things can start off a bit slow. We do have 2 decent goalies, good goalies, which is Sturkin and Swayman. You might be able to catch a 4.5 at a moderate pick 'em or plus price if you wait a little bit and grab that. I'd feel more comfortable doing that than taking a 5.5. This could be one of those 3-2 games, but I think the Rangers end up winning this one.
All right, yeah, this is a good game to get the day started. Looking forward to it. And like I said, and throw on Chris Kreider there as well. Plus 250 for him to score. He's actually further down the goal scorer prop list behind guys like look, I get it. Taylor Hall is capable, and he scored the last game, and obviously Pasternak, Bergeron, Marchand, Zibanejad. But we've got Chris Kreider behind a bunch of guys he shouldn't be right now with the way he's scoring and at the clip that he has been scoring lately for the New York Rangers. We're talking about a player that has scored for the New York Rangers in 5 of the last 7 games, 3 goals in the last 2 games, plus 250 for Kreider, plus 300 for Kakko. I think those are absolute terrific value. Win or lose, you can't argue with the value you're getting with those two guys to score a goal for the New York Rangers here. St. Louis Blues, Chicago Blackhawks. We got St. Louis minus 140 road favorites, 5.5 the total, 6 at some spots. So make sure you shop around to find the best number you can. This is a little bit of a tricky game for me. Blues have owned the Hawks lately, 5 straight head-to-head victories for the St. Louis Blues. They're coming off another game where they just can't build off a win. I mean, this is becoming an issue for the St. Louis Blues. It's like they get too satisfied after a victory, or they think, oh, things are great again, and then they just don't have that same strong effort the next time out. And it happened again against Detroit 4-2. And I love what Alex said. I still remember that line. Let's calm down. And from the show a few days ago, let's calm down on giving Ville Husso the next Curtis Joseph, in terms of in net for the Blues. And sure enough, he didn't have his best game the other night against Detroit in that 4-2 loss to the Red Wings. So a little coming back down to earth for him in that performance against the Red Wings. But the Blues are just an inconsistent mess, and they're not a team I'm rushing to lay minus 140 with on the road, although they have, again, had Chicago's number in recent meetings. Problem with backing Chicago is they're home off a 4-game road trip. It's not necessarily a bet-on spot for the Hawks either by any stretch of the imagination. But, the only losses they've had since Derek King took over behind the bench were Edmonton and Calgary, two of the hottest teams going in the NHL right now. So, and all things considered, this probably is a winnable game for them. I'd certainly take the plus price with the home dog here before I lay it with St. Louis. It probably will be Marc-Andre Fleury in net, and if it is, boy, you're talking about a goalie that certainly turned it around after a rough start to the year. Part of it being the team's playing better in front of him, but part of it being he's also playing better. In the month of November, a 2.25 goals against average and a 9.34 save percentage for Marc-Andre Fleury here in the month of November. We don't have goalies confirmed, but I'd absolutely be stunned in a divisional game like this at home on a holiday that if we don't see Fleury in net here for the Hawks. You would expect Binnington to be the guy here for the Blues. So it's probably going to be a game I pass on. I just don't like the idea of backing Chicago home off a 4-game road trip like this. But at the same time, there's no way I'm laying a price with St. Louis on the road right now, not with their inconsistency. So just the smallest of leans to Chicago for me. Alex, what do you think here, Blues and Hawks?
So, like I mentioned earlier, this was supposed to be the 12 o'clock ABC game. Now it's 2:30 and it's on ESPN Plus, which, much to the chagrin of people here, especially here at home, I got to figure out how to get ESPN Plus on the television. But the thing is, we talk about this often, and we're going to talk about it again later this weekend because we got a 6 o'clock Sunday start with the Hawks, where the crowd just doesn't show up. Sometimes if they end up getting down 1-0, 2-0, they just don't have the energy to get back into it. A 2:30 Friday game. First of all, it's the first time the Hawks have even played on a Black Friday at home in history, because normally back in the day this was the circus trip. So this is just a really odd circumstance. They're coming back home off of the West Coast road trip, playing an afternoon game. I think this is the first afternoon game of the season for the Hawks as well, in an odd start time. This feels like it could be a game where both teams are trying to feel each other out. Obviously, it's a divisional game, and these two teams do not like each other one bit, so it could get physical. We could see some, power play opportunities, maybe even some 4-on-4 chances. But you can't trust the Hawks to score early. You can't really trust the Blues, like I said, to just do anything consistent. They, one period they have 2 or 3 goals, the next minute they're taking penalties and they give up those goals right back. This game feels like a draw to me. And at plus 315, I think that's a great price. I could easily see this being a 2-2 game going into OT. Maybe the Hawks win it, maybe the Blues win it, but it doesn't matter. If I get the draw, it gets past 60 minutes, we cash our ticket. So I'm going to go plus 315 with the draw.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Let me just take a look at series history. Not too many overtime games, but you're right. The spot dictates that a little bit here. Given Chicago, Detroit hasn't, St. Louis hasn't exactly been consistent lighting it up, and neither is Chicago.
Also want to mention, too, Derek King has shuffled the lines a bit. You got Kane and Taves at the top line together. So you got Kubalik on that second line. Doc has not been doing well to face-off dot at all, which has been really shocking. That's kind of one of the strengths he had in his first season, but for whatever reason, he's been struggling there. So that's something to keep an eye on, too. And Derek King has kind of mentioned it. He said in the press conference after yesterday's practice, he says, he's not afraid to shuffle up the lines before the game or even during the game. Hopefully it's not going to get to be like, how it was with Joel Quenneville toward the end of his tenure, but it's going to be probably something to just keep an eye on, where they're going to be mixing and matching things. So if we don't see offensive production right away, things could change around, and something we have to kind of keep an eye on moving forward with the Hawks.
Yeah, exactly. They're still looking for consistency offensively because that's, that was basically early in the season. There'd be games where the defense let them down, and then there'd be times that the offense would just be stagnant and do nothing. So that's been the issue, is getting both ends of the ice to really play well in the same game at the same time. That always hasn't been the case here for the Chicago Blackhawks. But, when you look at this game, right away, what stands out to me here in a game like this is assuming is definitely Brandon Hagel as a goal scorer prop potential here. Top line, he scored in back-to-back games for Chicago. Alex mentioned the line changes. Well, one of them is going to be Hagel with Taves and Kane, playing on that top line for the Chicago Blackhawks. So
And
I
another
like that
mention
one.
too, Hagel is on the first power play line as well. I don't know
Yep.
if he's on the point. The way that they kind of that was written up is to make it seem like he's the point man, which I don't think that wouldn't make sense, honestly, with having Kane and DeBrincat on that power play line as well. But he's going to be on the ice for power play opportunities. So yeah, that's a good price, I think, for a goal scorer prop.
Yeah, exactly. So target definitely Brandon Hagel for anytime goal scorer in this game. That one definitely is piquing my interest. I'm just right now looking to see what the price is on that. Hold on one sec. We will mention it here. Let me just see here. Okay, let me just make sure I get Blues and Hawks. There we go. What's interesting here is I'm now seeing there we go, plus 320. There we go. We found him. Plus 320. At that price, top line minutes, he's going to get number one power play unit as well.
Yeah.
With Taves and Kane, he scored in back-to-back games, plus 320. Come on, you got to bet something on that. I mean, like I say, just like with the Rangers game, the two that I bet there, Kreider and Kakko, win or lose, that's a great price for what you're getting from those players right now.
I'd probably add that to my card as well too. And keep in mind, whenever Kane and Taves are playing on the same line, going back to I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years ago is really when they've consistently played together. Teams are obviously worried about the two of those guys, so it always leaves that third man on that forward line open. So that yeah, he's gonna. I think that's actually probably the best value for a goal scorer today potentially.
So it won't be a pass for me in this game. I will have that bet. Hagel to score a goal. Absolutely interested at that price. Winnipeg, Minnesota. We got Minnesota minus 130 home favorites. 6 the total, shaded to the under. The Jets are in a little bit of a funk now. It's an official skid that they're on now because, you look at the first few losses. They lost to Edmonton. They lost to Vancouver, but I thought they had the better of the play, but it was Demko had a great night. They lost to Pittsburgh after a great first period where they could have been up 5-0. And then I think, again, you let a team hang around when you dominate them early, that's usually trouble. And that's what we saw against Pittsburgh. But the alarming loss was Columbus, to get shut out by the Jackets, 3-0. And Paul Maurice has said it. We're in one of those ruts right now. We just can't put the puck in the net. And that has been the issue for the Jets. It's not usually the thing you think about being the problem for them, but now a team that has scored just 4 goals in their last 4 games combined. 1 goal per game on average during this 4-game losing streak. That's not going to win you any hockey games, no question. So all of a sudden, this team's just not lighting the lamp the way they've been accustomed to. And now they got to take on a Minnesota Wild team that coming off a 3-2 shootout win against New Jersey, kind of got away with one, did not play great, really relied on Cam Talbot to be magnificent in that game, which he was for the Minnesota Wild to allow them to escape with the victory over the Devils. So Minnesota will have to pick up their effort a little bit here going into this matchup against the Jets. They like their game. They said, we're getting chances. We're playing all right enough defensively. Connor Hellebuck's played well. That's not the issue. The issue right now for Winnipeg is they just can't put a puck in the net at the moment. So we'll see how this one goes. The over is 17-5 in Minnesota's last 22 home games, and that's dating back to last year. It's hard to ignore that. And is with this Jets team with PLD playing well, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and with the talent they have in Scheifele and Ehlers, is it really realistic to expect them to just be shut down indefinitely? At some point they're going to start scoring here. Minnesota should be good to find the back of the net at home. We know at home games they have been very good offensively this year. They've scored 3, 4, 5 goals the majority of their home games, and of course they had the 7 spot in their last home game against Dallas the last time they were at XL Energy Center. So I'm going to have a small bet on the over here. It's kind of counterintuitive to what Winnipeg's doing right now, which is not scoring goals. But Minnesota's trended over at home. I do believe the Jets are too talented up front to indefinitely stay ice cold offensively. And that's the thing they're working on. That's the thing they're focused on coming into this game, is getting this offense ignited. And the overs also, I believe, 3-1-1 the last 5 head-to-head meetings between these two teams as well. So, kind of worried about how Winnipeg's not scoring right now, but we'll go ahead with a smaller bet here over the total right now, which is currently, actually, you know what? DraftKings are great partners here, 5.5. I really like it more at 5.5. 6, I'm kind of on the fence, but that 5.5 minus 120 at DraftKings for the over here, definitely going to put that in pocket here with the Jets and the Wild. Alex, what do you think? Winnipeg, Minnesota.
Yeah, so if you do like that over 5.5, you can, like I said, go to DraftKings, which account you should have if possible. And if not, if you see the 6, then try to wait and get that adjusted price in game. Nothing happens in the first few minutes, then you might be able to grab 5.5 live. However, I like the first period over in this spot. And, Black Friday is all about getting ready for Christmas and buying gifts. So I'm going to give you guys a gift. I say play the first period over, and I am not going to personally bet on it because the last 3 times I've bet on Winnipeg to get a first period over, it is not cashed. For whatever reason, like you said, they've just completely cooled off. So Minnesota at home usually lights out with the over, especially in the first period. Winnipeg had been a first period team until the last week and a half. More than likely it cashes, so I'll be staying off of it. Hopefully you guys all cash it. I say first period over 1.5 at minus $1.20. As far as the full game over, it makes total sense. Like I said, Minnesota at home has just been, overs. Overs just make sense. They are a much faster team at home. Also, keep in mind too, we talk about the odd start times today with some of these teams. 2:30 is not really a start time we see that often with Minnesota, and I think they actually have a game that starts at 1 o'clock on Sunday as well. So, sometimes it could mean 2 things. Either we see teams kind of sleepwalking and they don't get offense rolling, or sometimes we see teams kind of geared up and amped up. Winnipeg did spend the night at the St. Paul Hotel already, and so they're all settled in and stuff. Wasn't exactly a travel spot, something we'll talk about in a little bit. So I think we could definitely see some goals here. I think, like I said, Winnipeg needs to get things rolling. This is a rivalry game. This is also 2 teams that don't like each other, play really physical against one another. So I'll go first period over, and I'll go full game over. Full game over, I will actually bet. First period over, you guys go bet it.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. DraftKings to the rescue, man. This is not the first time I've seen this, where it's 6 for a total that I like over painted across the board, and then there's that Lone Ranger 5.5 that I see.
There's a couple of them on the board today.
Yeah, at DraftKings. So DraftKings coming through for me, because obviously the difference between 5.5 and 6 is massive. A lot of games finish 6 goals. It's crazy how often you see that. So to be able to get the 5.5 is big. Alex liking not only the full game over 5.5, but the first period over as well. 1.5 here, Jets and Wild. All right, next game, Carolina and Philadelphia. We've got Carolina minus 150, road favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. Now, I think Alex hinted at maybe a Flyers look here, particularly in the first period of this game earlier in the week on this show. I wouldn't talk anyone out of that, but here's the problem. You got now Carolina off back-to-back losses. The focus should be there, and it's the focus for the superior team, in my opinion. And it's not like Philadelphia is playing great here the last few games. So that's kind of tempered my enthusiasm. But from a spot perspective, this is a tough spot for Carolina, especially early in the game. You're coming from the West Coast, you're flying east through the holiday, and now you got to play an early start, 3:30 p.m. Eastern game here in Philly. That's not an easy scheduling spot or travel spot, especially with it, with this game following the Thanksgiving holiday, and you're wondering about family and all that stuff. And it's not going to be easy here for Carolina. And Carolina lost to Philly. That's another thing that bothers me too. They lost to Philly in Carolina the last time these two teams played. So it's kind of like a little bit of a revenge spot here for the Hurricanes. And it is the better team, and they're off 2 losses. So I would think the focus is there. But, the travel spot is a little dicey for Carolina. And the early start time doesn't help matters for them by any stretch of the imagination. So I've kind of gone back and forth. I'm probably going to be totally off the game from a side perspective and probably from a totals perspective. However, from a props perspective, we're going back to the well with Seth Jarvis. We're doing it again because, again, he's now had a couple without a goal, but he still had the chances. You're still getting good prices there. And here's one for the Flyers to keep an eye on. And Jimmy mentioned him, Morgan Frost for the Philadelphia Flyers. They need a spark offensively, someone to come in there and just give them some life, give them some offensive punch, because they're just not getting it throughout their lineup right now, the Philadelphia Flyers. So the hope for Alain Vigneault's team is that Morgan Frost being called up to the Flyers and being put on a line that's going to give him a chance to thrive offensively. He's going to get second line center spot here for this game in between Joel Farabee and Cam Atkinson. That's where they have him slotted in for this game. A chance for him to maybe spark something offensively for this Flyers team. Will it happen? Who knows? But what we do know is he's got 15 points in 16 AHL games this year in the minors. So it can't hurt. You'd expect with this opportunity on the second line, a top six role, that he's going to be, chomping at the bit extremely much. Because when you get this rare opportunity, if you're him, for a guy that was, a lot of expectations when he was drafted, you want to take advantage of that opportunity without a doubt. So I don't know if books are already. The problem is he's not someone that's been on the team all year. So you might find it a little bit difficult to find a goal scorer prop out there on Morgan Frost. I'm having that issue right now as we're doing this show, finding a Morgan Frost goal scorer prop. But if you can, maybe look closer right before puck drop at 3:30 Eastern, see if you can find one. But if you can, I would look in that direction here because, he's going to get that opportunity playing on the second line right away to make an impact offensively for a team that needs someone to step up offensively based on what we've seen the last few games. What do you think here, Alex? Canes, Flyers.
Yeah, I mentioned it the other day when we talked about the Carolina spot with San Jose, or Seattle, I should say. I'm fading Carolina. This is a weird travel spot. They're on the West Coast trip. This is the last game of the road trip, which has been a big cash spot. Fading teams on the last game of road trip has been almost as good as the spot we usually like, which is team coming back home off of a road trip. And they're playing a Flyers team that they've lost 4 in a row. They fought hard against Florida, ended up dropping that game. So they're hungry for a win, especially against a division opponent. Like I said, this was a tough battle when the last time these two teams played. And Philly has won 4 of the last 5 meetings against Carolina. And I know someone in the chat mentioned, fade Philly if Martin Jones is in that. Well, Martin Jones has started 2 of the last 3 games. I don't think he's going to get the start. I think it's going to be Carter Hart, which if we're going to back Carter Hart, rather have him in Philly than anywhere else on the planet. So at a plus price here, I'm all over Philly. I got this plus $1.30. It's up to $1.35 now.
All right, there we go. And that's full game or first period?
That's full game.
Full game. All right, very good. Full game. Philadelphia plus 130, plus 135 is what you can get right now with the Flyers. Like I say, this is a tricky game because I think you get focus from the superior team, that being Carolina, off 2 straight losses. They lost to Philly recently, but you're right, this travel spot is a problem for the Carolina Hurricanes. It ain't a good one at all. It ain't a bet on travel spot, scheduling spot, no doubt. Seattle to Philly, west to east through the holiday season and an early start here. That's tricky. There's no question about that. We got Andrew McInnis now with us here now on the Friday edition of the Ice Guys. Andrew, welcome in. We've gone through the first 4, so I'll give you the floor to talk about Rangers, Bruins, Blues, Hawks, Jets, Wild, and the game we just talked about, Canes and Flyers. Pretty much the early afternoon games. What do you like in those 4 games?
Yeah, isn't it nice, guys? Nice to have some afternoon hockey. Obviously, it kind of can be a distraction from work, but it's also a fun distraction to have. But yeah, sorry for being a little tardy here today, guys. But Rangers, Bruins, I actually tweeted out a video free play of this. I really, really do like this Ranger spot here. It's going to be a big day in Boston. Jimmy mentioned it. The crowd's going to be packed. It's a big game for both basketball and hockey, for the city of Boston. But besides some of these expected goal numbers and the 5-on-5 numbers we've seen from Boston, I'll put it this way, guys. I use the same analogy as in football as I'll use here in hockey. You can't just only play well against the poor teams. And I'm not saying that the Bruins have played bad against teams that are of good competition, but that's when all their best games have come. All the teams that they should beat, all the teams they should only allow 1 or 2 goals against. And that game they beat Florida in, well, that was, a good bet on spot for them, I thought. They've proven to us they can beat Buffalo a bunch of times. They can beat Montreal. They can beat the Devils. Can they beat this Rangers team that I think has a Chris Kreider playing really, really well this year? Capo Kakinen, like Ian's been pointing out, playing real great hockey, and a decor that really moves the puck well. And Shesterkin was confirmed. I like this spot here on the road, plus 140, and it's a simple numbers game for me, If I lose this wager, I will not regret making it at this plus 140 price. So I have locked in the New York Rangers. As far as Minnesota and Winnipeg, well, Minnesota back at home after a 3-game road trip. I'll tell you guys, I had my best bet on our show on Wednesday with you guys. Minnesota money line made me sweat it out, fellas. Made me sweat it out. Of course, I couldn't just get the easy win. Had to go right
Talbot
to a
stole
shootout.
the game. There's nothing else to say. I mean, they were outplayed majority of that game against Jersey, so credit to him.
Yeah. Oh, Cam Talbot. Yeah, exactly. Oh, he had a great game, And I will say though, he made some great saves, Ian, but that was one of those games where I think a lot of the shots might not have been dangerous for New Jersey. There were some that he made some great saves on, but I think some of the stats and the numbers might kind of be a little bit skewed as far as the scoring opportunities go and dangerous opportunities. But Minnesota and Winnipeg, I actually like the over in that game. I like a fast pace. I think some mistakes will happen from both teams defensively. I think Minnesota will give up some to Winnipeg, and I've been betting unders with Winnipeg, but I feel like they are due for an outburst here, and this game could be one to do that against. St. Louis, Chicago, lean towards the over, and nothing official on that game. And Carolina, Philadelphia, I'm on Carolina in regulation. It's one of those spots. I think that you look at an end of a road trip for a team. Usually, it's kind of a bet against spot for me. End of a road trip. But that's only if the road trip's been a really great one. Last 2 games, they've dropped against mediocre teams at best. So I feel like this could be a spot for them to kind of get right here. I think I heard Alex talking about it when I popped in. I don't like betting against Philadelphia at home, and I can understand why people would be on Philadelphia. And I think that they're a way better home team. Mentioned a bunch of times this year on the show, but I'm betting on Carolina to have a great game and kind of bounce back after 2 straight duds. So give me Carolina in regulation.
All right, we have Ottawa and Anaheim now. We've got 3 more games that are like pre-evening games. We've got one that's in the dinner hour on the East Coast, New Jersey, Nashville. But technically, these are you could say afternoon games coming up. Well, 2 afternoon and 1 at the very beginning of the evening on the East Coast. But Ottawa, Anaheim, we've got Anaheim minus 165, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. The Ottawa Senators, you can't fault their effort in these 2 losses since coming back from the COVID pause. I mean, against Colorado, 7-5, 6-3 to San Jose, and they outplayed San Jose for, I think, a good stretch of games. And it's frustrating when you're getting chances, you're playing good hockey, you're playing toe-to-toe with a team, and your goaltending has kind of let you down. And guess what? DJ Smith for the Senators went to the old John Tortorella school of, can I get a goddamn save every now and then after the loss to San Jose? He's very similar. He's like, the difference was their goalie, and we need one of our goalies to step up and get and play well, play better, get the job done. So kind of calling out everybody, Forsberg, Gustafsson, Matt Murray, everybody called out by DJ Smith. That was a shot for DJ Smith at his goaltending, and rightfully so. It's got to be better. I mean, you give up 7 to Colorado, you give up 6 to San Jose, and the team in front of their goalies is playing hard, playing with great effort, scoring goals in bunches for this team. And right now they're not getting a save at the moment. So we'll see whoever's in the net and tending the twine in this game for the Ottawa Senators against the Anaheim Ducks. We'll see if they can step up and provide some adequate goaltending, because that's been completely non-existent for the Ottawa Senators in these first 2 games. I think the head coach is getting a little fed up with it, to be quite honest. So we'll see who's in net. No confirmation yet. Gustafsson is the projected goalie. Philip Gustafsson for Ottawa. You'd expect Gibson in net for Anaheim. I kind of like the effort from Ottawa. I'm kind of tempted to back them here at the plus price. It's not a great situation for Anaheim here. They've cooled off. They've lost 3 in a row. They're coming off a little bit of a mini 2-game road swing through Nashville and Colorado. So it's not like this is a spot I'm ready to lay a price with Anaheim in. But boy, Ottawa's effort's been good. Can they get a little bit better goaltending? They could have won, a couple of these games against the Avs and Sharks since they returned. So kind of like the price with Ottawa. So small lean to them here. The over's tempting at 5.5 too, just because Ottawa's just, all offense scoring goals, and the goaltending is just completely leaking oil right now for this Senators group. So 5.5, I could only look to the over here. Alex, what do you think? Sens, Ducks.
I want nothing to do with the side here in this spot. I'm going to go over 5.5. Like I said, Ottawa can't stop a beach ball right now. You got Anaheim's lost 3 in a row. This is a spot they're used to playing too. Black Friday, they've always had a early home game, often not usually against the Hawks. So this is definitely one of those scheduling spots where you want to favor one team or the other, and you are having a East Coast team going west playing an early time. I usually like to fade those spots any time of the year. So if I had to play somebody, maybe I look for something adjusted with Anaheim. I'm not going to lay a price with them, but I would rather just stay with the over 5.5 here. I think it's a good price at a pick 'em price.
I will say it's a big mismatch in special teams for Anaheim. Their penalty kill, the Ducks, has been, I think, for the most part, pretty good lately. Now, they did give up a power play goal against Nashville and Colorado, but before that, they had a great penalty kill. And Ottawa's given up a power play goal in almost all of their last, 17 or 18 games. That's hideous for the Senators. So they just cannot kill a penalty right now. They're going through what Vancouver, has been going through the last several weeks for the most part with their penalty kill. So that definitely speaks to trouble potentially for just a team that's struggling to keep the puck out of their own net. And none of these goaltenders playing with confidence right now. They can throw Anton Forsberg in there. They can throw Philip Gustafsson in there. They can throw Matt Murray in there. They're all interchangeable. They're all interchangeably bad right now for the Ottawa Senators at this point in time.
In their own way, it's funny because usually you hear people say, in your own way, you guys are all equally great. But Ian's like, in their own way, they're all equally shit. They're all
Yeah.
The comments from DJ Smith were just shots fired. Like, he didn't hold back. It's like, I liked our game. I liked our details. Our details were good. Our effort was good. We're generating a lot. We just need some saves. Their goalie, and it was their goalie, and is what these said. And we just need better from ours. So
the funny thing is, though, Ian, for many years it was the opposite. For many years, it was the goaltending was there with Craig Anderson, and there was no goal scoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's gone the other way completely. Yeah, Andrew. All right, Andrew, thoughts here. Ottawa, Anaheim.
Yeah, I'm going to put a two-teamer together in this game. I'm going to put a two-teamer. I very rarely would ever plug in the Ducks into a two-teamer, but I'm going to put the Pittsburgh Penguins and this Ducks team into a two-teamer. I got plus 160 putting these two teams together. Obviously, we're challenging the Islanders to put forward a good performance, obviously, against Pittsburgh. That's kind of a don't try and catch a falling knife type of game, and we all know that. And then in this game in particular, pretty much my handicap is a big part of what Alex talked about. Time zone, East Coast team playing out West, expecting, a little bit of a later start and not really expecting this to be the game where they get it together defensively. So in Anaheim, it's time for us to start thinking that, hey, maybe they can be a decent offensive team, especially against lesser quality teams. Can Anaheim score a bunch of goals against top quality teams? Maybe not. But against a team like the Senators, I think they could. And I could definitely see why you guys are on the over as well. So plus 160, two-teamer here, Pittsburgh and this Anaheim team.
All right, Pittsburgh and Anaheim. Of course, we'll get to Penguins and Islanders later in the show, I should say. And if you know anything about what's been going on with the Islanders lately, you kind of know why Andrew's looking at a Pittsburgh side in that game there. All right, next up, we've got Florida and Washington. Even money here, minus 110 both sides, 6 the total in this game. This is an over for me because of series history. And I've talked about this, it seems like, for a good solid year or maybe even 2 now on this show. When it's Florida versus Washington, they just get involved in these high-scoring affairs. It's been repeated, and it's been constant, in the last several meetings. It happened earlier this year. They played down in Florida, and that game on November 4th was a 5-4 overtime victory for Florida. It's been 6 straight overs head-to-head between these two teams. 6-5, 5-4, 5-3, 5-4, 4-3, 5-4. Kind of sounds like I'm dancing when I'm doing that. But look at it.
One step, two step.
Exactly. And they're all 1 and a 2 and a 3. I mean, it's been one over after another here for Florida and Washington head-to-head. So, and we know these teams are very offensively capable. And we've seen them both light the lamp. It's not only the series history has been high scoring, but lately these teams are scoring goals in bunches. And believe it or not, Martin Jones had a phenomenal effort against the Panthers the other night, or else they probably should have scored at least 3, 4, or 5 in that game, the Panthers. They had 45 shots. They had a bunch of chances, some terrific, un-Martin Jones-like saves from him in that game against the Panthers. But before that 2-1 win for Florida, let's keep in mind they scored 5, 4, and 6 in the 3 previous games. You look at this Washington team, even with, still, a couple key players out. Sheary, TJ Oshie's still out. Backstrom's still out. Eller's still out. Anthony Mantha's out. That's some key offensive personnel, and yet they've still managed to find their way to putting the puck in the net, scoring 4 against San Jose, scoring 6 the other night against Montreal. And I would expect more of the same here, simply because when it's Panthers versus Capitals, it's just been goals. Simple as that. So as far as the side goes, I think I could only look to Florida because of the great run they've still been on since the Barkov injury. They've won every game without him, which is remarkable because we know how important he is, and they've still found a way to win. But those were all at home. They're going on the road here for this one, a little bit of a different story. So I lean Florida. May not actually pull the trigger on that one, but I will take the over here in this one at six straight overs head to head, Panthers and Capitals. Alex, what do you think here, Florida, Washington?
This is another game where I really like the draw here. We've already seen them play a 5-4 game in overtime, and 4 of the last 6 meetings have gone to OT. So this definitely feels that, Florida is a team. I mean, obviously, you don't want to fade Florida really anywhere, but you certainly don't want to fade them at home. If you're going to take, go against the Panthers, you'd go against them on the road. But I think this is going to be one of those spots here where we do see offense back and forth. I like a 3-3 game after 60 minutes. So plus 325, give me the draw.
All right, there you go. Liking the draw here in this one. I like Aaron Ekblad to score a goal here. Even though he's a defenseman, he has 2 in the last 5 games for the Florida Panthers. This guy is shooting the puck a ton. We were on to the early in the season, the shots on goal props for Aaron Ekblad say, you bet those whenever they're 2.5 because this guy is shooting the puck, pounding the puck on net routinely. It's 2.5 again today, so you know what to do there. But he's a guy that's shooting the puck a lot. He's now starting to find the back of the net a little bit. You could go so many different ways with the Panthers because there's so many different players that can step up and score. Like Bennett's always a good goal scorer prop consideration as well for the Florida Panthers. And to Alex's point about the draw, I remember him cashing the draw in that Florida-Washington matchup earlier this year down in Florida. Again, usually these teams do play pretty close, tightly contested games. So the draw might be live here, Panthers and Capitals indeed. Andrew, your thoughts here, Panthers, Capitals?
Well, it's hard to argue with the over, just like you said, Ian. It's real hard to argue with it. It's series history. Great call, a good idea with the draw there too, Alex. And I'm always shocked, Alex, with the odds you get for the draws between two teams like this. Like, it's very, you'd think it'd be a lot lower than the average draw price, but it doesn't really drop that much below the mean. It's actually quite still high up there, like you said. So I like it.
Yeah, you usually don't see that drop until maybe like the second half of the season or definitely like the playoffs. If this was a playoff game, that would probably be like 280, 290. But for some reason, between 300 and 325 is actually awfully high. I'm sure the 315 or 320 is probably the most regular price, but the price I got offshore was 325. So.
Yeah, but I'm on Florida, guys. I like them here. There's a little short dog here in this spot. Obviously, you mentioned kind of the injuries there, Ian. You look at that game for Washington against Montreal. One thing about them I always have noticed, you guys notice how there's never really a flat spot for Washington. They always beat down the bad teams, whether it's Ottawa or, hate to say it, Montreal right now and that kind of stuff. But in the third period of those games, they usually let teams get back. You guys ever notice that? Like, some teams, they'll just take these poor teams lightly and come out to a bad start. The Washington Capitals are like the opposite of that. Like, I'm going to start playing first period puck lines with them against crappy teams because you never really know what they're going to give you late in the second or third period, Sorry, Alex, you have something to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say great to fade if you're looking for next to score props. If they have a 2-goal or 3-goal lead against the team, especially because third period, you can tend to get plus prices with both sides. So that's something to keep an eye on with that prop, live prop.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep riding this Florida streak that I mentioned last week that I'm going to be on and looking for. But let's be honest, look at the teams that they have defeated. They've taken on a lot of teams that were in bet against spots. So this is kind of, even though they've won several in a row, I feel like this is kind of the big game for them to get up for and win as far as this next little streak for them that they're on right now.
Yeah, it should be interesting. And what's fascinating about the last meeting in Florida? We had goalies being pulled on both sides in that game. Knight got pulled, and Ilya Samsonov's on fire right now. Like 7-0-1, a 2.2 goals against average. He's playing great, but he got pulled in that start against Florida earlier this season. So very, very fascinating to see that happened. Both goalies ended up getting the hook in that crazy 5-4 game earlier this season. So we'll see if the goalies can fare better this time around. But series history indicates the offenses have had the better of it when these two teams meet head to head. All right, New Jersey, Nashville. We've got Nashville minus 130, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. I was impressed in defeat with the Devils. That was a Minnesota team that had rest advantages, that was coming off a defeat to Tampa over the weekend. And I like the Devils game. They went toe-to-toe with a very good Minnesota team, lost in a shootout by a score of 3-2. And now we'll see if they can bounce back from that. You look at their recent schedule, the Devils lost to Boston, lost to the Rangers, lost to Florida, lost to Minnesota, did beat Tampa Bay with a big third period onslaught to beat the Lightning. This team's been in every game, and the losses lately have been to nothing but quality teams, quality foes as of late. So I like the way their game's trending. And you look at Nashville, they're starting to go in the wrong direction other than a narrow, very fortuitous 3-2 win over Anaheim, which was a game that was back and forth, could have gone either way. They've now dropped 3 of 4 to Toronto, to Montreal. They lose 5-2 to Vegas the other night. I think a couple of us like the Golden Knights in that game against Nashville the other night. I like the way the Devils game is trending. They've had a tough schedule lately. This is a little bit of a step down in competition now for them. Give me New Jersey here. Give me El Diablo at the plus price here. I'm going to take my shot with them here. +1. I actually got it when it was +130, and there's been even further money moving toward New Jersey. They're down to +120 in a lot of spots right now, even +115 showing up. So I can't be alone here, and kind of thinking the Devils might be a live road underdog here, but I like New Jersey here in this spot against still a little bit of a flatlining, I think, Nashville team. They played great for a while, but starting to show signs that they may be petering out a little bit and regressing a little bit. What do you think here, Alex? Devils, Preds?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I think this line is priced one, like I said, the fact that New Jersey's been on a bit of a skid, but they've been playing some of the best teams in the league, so it's not necessarily that they're getting just crushed and flatlined and just in poor form. They've been hanging tough with some good teams, and also you look at Nashville has won 6 of the last 7 meetings, actually 6-0-1 to be exact. But we're talking about completely different Nashville teams back in the day. This is not your same Predators team. And I just think the Devils are in better form. They really should have won that game against Minnesota. I'm glad they didn't, because I was on the Wild in that spot as Andrew was. So this is a spot here. I think, at a plus price. I was looking at the regulation line, but I'm like, no, this definitely feels like it could be a game that might end up in overtime. So do with that what you will. Maybe we see the draw cash as well, but I'm going to go with New Jersey here at plus $1.20.
Yeah, you mentioned the draw. 4 of the last 5 meetings have gone to overtime or a shootout with the Devils and the Predators. And again, we're talking about worse Devils teams and probably better Predators teams during that, 5 of the last 6 or 4 of the last 5, I should say, that have gone to either overtime or a shootout. So even in previous years, we've seen New Jersey really give Nashville a game and a tough battle. And I think they're going to do that here and have a solid shot at the win here tonight. Andrew, what do you think here, Jersey, Nashville?
This is a pass for me, guys. Just no real feel on it.
All right, nothing wrong with that. We move on to Seattle and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay -175, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this one. Oh, by the way, Dawson Mercer, going to mention it again. Every game, he's getting chances. It's still the value prop, so if you want to sprinkle a couple bucks there, I wouldn't argue with that. Seattle starting a road trip here, and look, they're starting the road trip now with some confidence back, a little pep in their step. Bad run, terrible stretch of games, terrible skid they had, goaltending letting them down, their defensive game letting them down, but back-to-back wins to end their homestand against Washington and Carolina. Give 2 pretty good wins against 2 pretty good teams for Seattle, so it gives them a little life going into this road trip here. I like Seattle in the first period in this game, not for the full game, because I think cream could rise to the top and Tampa Bay gets better and stronger. But this is one of those spots where I really could see the Lightning totally dopey, in the first 20 minutes of the game. We've seen this from the Lightning at times, especially on home ice against an inferior team, especially against an out-of-conference team where they've gotten off to a sluggish, slow start. They're coming off an ultra-satisfying, commanding shutout victory, 4-0 over Philly in their last game, and they beat Minnie in a shootout before that, and they've survived, no Braden Point, no problem. They found ways to win these last couple games against, teams in their own conference, or in a good Minnesota team as well. But now they're playing, little old Seattle here, and a Seattle team that's going to want to start off the road trip strong and come out, I think, strong. And a Tampa Bay team where I've seen them in these spots before. They just come out a little sluggish early against under or inferior competition, I guess you could say. Do I trust Seattle, to win the game for a full 60 minutes? No, because you're always worried Tampa Bay wakes up after a bad first period, and then the game could completely change and go in their direction. That would be the concern. That's why I like the first period angle here with Seattle. A little confidence in their stride now after the 2 home wins to end that homestand against good teams. And maybe they ride that a little bit here into the first 20 minutes of this game against Tampa Bay. So going to go with a small flyer here, if you will, on Seattle, plus 140 to plus 150, what you can get here with them in the first period in this game. Maybe take advantage of a slow starting Tampa Bay squad. Alex, what do you think here? Kraken Bolts.
I have no idea what just happened. I got knocked off the screen for a second, but I like this first period over with the, and it's just kind of in the same thought as you have Seattle, finally getting out of home. It's interesting. I talked about this with some people earlier in the year about certain teams, most notably Montreal, Chicago, where if you're struggling at home, sometimes it's good to get away from home and get on the road. And I guess that makes sense with teams that have more demanding fan bases. But you kind of wonder that with Seattle. I guess I'd like to think the fans in Seattle can be patient and realize that, hey, this is year one. They're going to go through some growing pains. But you wonder if them getting away from Climate Pledge Arena it could be a good thing. And so that's something to keep an eye on. Tampa Bay, I mean, they're getting better, but they still just seem to be kind of up and down. They aren't at their full form. They keep dealing with injuries. Braden Point being out for a while is going to be something they've got to really kind of overcome. So I think they'll be able to get a goal, but I think Seattle will get a goal too. So if I like the first period over, and if your book has that option of each team to score in the first period, which usually is at a plus price, I'd say go with that as well.
All right, so liking the first period over, and I know Alex has been betting a lot of Seattle first period overs lately. Liking it again here today. Andrew, what do you like here? Seattle, Tampa Bay.
I'm on Tampa in regulation, and one of the biggest reasons is, first of all, just a road spot here for Seattle. But another one is just those 2 games that Seattle won, their last 2 games that they won. Let's be honest, guys, both of those games were incredibly bad spots for their opponent, horrible spots for their opponent. Those are games that, if I was betting them, I would have been on the Seattle side. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I talked the other day about a lot of these road trips now. Teams are playing Florida and Tampa back to back, right? Well, right now it seems like Seattle is one of the last stops on the train for some of these teams on their road trips, and it's setting up Seattle to be in some pretty good bet on spots. And you look at Washington, Carolina. Oh yeah, 2 great teams that they beat, but let's be honest, those teams were both nearing the end of their road trip. Carolina's second last game of their road trip. Washington, I believe that was the last game of their road trip. And you look at the stats and the differential for Seattle at home versus on the road. Kraken have lost 6 their last 8 games, and their last 6 games on the road, giving up 24 goals their last 5 road games. Not something really to write home about. You give up a few goals to Tampa Bay, they won't let you come back in that game, and they'll hold things down. And I think it was a slow start to the season for Tampa. We saw what happened against Philadelphia for them. I think they'll build off that. I don't think that Seattle will be able to trade goals with Tampa. I think if Tampa gets 3 goals, they could win this game.
All right, liking Tampa Bay in regulation, Andrew, in this one with the Kraken and the Lightning. Before we get to our next game, we'll talk DraftKings now, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. DraftKings Sportsbook, they have a unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. Doesn't matter if it's a one-timer, deflection, breakaway, however they light the lamp, you win. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state, don't worry, you can still play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Throw down $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, 1 puck in the net nets you a big win with promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, we've got the Vancouver Canucks and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus minus 135, home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. It's Jackets or pass. We'll just leave it at that. Can't back this dumpster fire Vancouver outfit right now. It's just been a completely disastrous run for them. And what's made it worse is we know the defense hasn't been great for a while. We know the goaltending from Demko. I think actually he's the guy you fault the least. He's doing everything he can. It's bad defending in front of him. And offensively, where the hell's Horvat? Where the hell's Pettersson? Where are these guys you count on offensively for Vancouver? They've done zip for you. Nothing during this stretch. I mean, so it's a collective fail right now from the Vancouver Canucks. There's not really one semblance of their game that you can be confident in and feel good about right now. And Columbus, my bad. I took Winnipeg the other night. Sorry about that, you guys. Underestimated you. Played a solid game, 3-0 shutout win. I thought, hey, they're beating up on some pretty weaker teams lately. Now Columbus plays an angry, focused Winnipeg team, and no problem. Jackets played a great game, a complete team effort. They play anything close to that, they're definitely better at the moment than Vancouver is. So it's Jackets or nothing for me in this game. No goalie confirmations, I believe, as of yet for this matchup here. It looks like actually we do have Merzlikins confirmed for the Jackets. I would think Demko for Vancouver, but regardless, Vancouver's a mess right now. The Vultures are circling around Jim Benning, the GM, Travis Green, the head coach. Not a good situation here. And, I thought maybe the road trip bond the team, bring them together a little bit, and just another bad game the other night against Pittsburgh. Although Pittsburgh's playing great hockey right now, but still not a team I have any interest backing in their current state. What do you think here, Alex? Vancouver, Columbus?
Yeah, like you said, you can't go with Vancouver. They're a shit show right now on both ends of the ice. Elias Pettersson, as you always say, can't find him with a telescope. His offense has just been lacking right now.
Nice.
It's surprising. Yeah. And the thing is, too, Pettersson's the guy who from day one I thought was going to be a real star in this league. And now he's kind of fallen into that trap where we've seen this in a lot of sports with guys. As soon as they get that big paycheck, they've all of a sudden just kind of coasted through, haven't done much. He's got to be the guy to really kind of shake things up. I think not just from just an offensive talent standpoint, but even in that locker room, he's got to be him and some of these guys that finally got this big money. They've got to, get things rocking and rolling because, like I said, the coaching staff, the coaching staff and the GM, they're on borrowed time right now. It's a matter of time before they clean house in that department. I feel like, especially if they don't get things rolling in this road trip, they go back home. And they got 4 more games on the road before they go back home next week. So they got to get things rocking and rolling. I don't know if this is going to be the spot here. Columbus has been decent, especially at home. Merzlikins has put up some good numbers. So plus $1.10, plus $1.15. I'm going to go with Columbus in regulation.
All right, to sweeten the price a little bit in regulation with Columbus for Alex in this one. Andrew, Canucks and Blue Jackets.
Guys, I think it's kind of funny. Today is one of those days where, I mean, we kind of saw that a little bit actually on Wednesday before Thanksgiving and stuff. But today's one of those days where you either going against the grain or you're riding with it. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm not saying that you'd want to do this, but realistically, you could. You could make a just for fun parlay here and just, fade the struggling Canucks, fade the struggling Islanders, fade some of these struggling teams and see what happens and put some of these together. Yep. Like Alex, you look at some of these spots for some of these teams and Steve Merrill, a phrase he always uses is don't try and catch a falling knife. And that one has really always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And with the NHL, I used to, for some reason, it sounds weird, but you know how sometimes if a team's on a big run, you don't want to be the guy that bets that one that loses, and I used to kind of think like that, but now it's, a streak could go on, but they're only going to break the streak once. So I find it kind of interesting. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I know we don't like to talk about too many, parlay type stuff on this show, but I think it is kind of interesting. Like I mentioned one to you guys actually on Wednesday after the show that ended up coming through. I wish I mentioned on the show. Just betting on some of these teams against, the struggling teams that can't seem to get it done.
Well, that's the thing. We're at that point, especially, I think the media makes the biggest deal out of saying, oh, the Thanksgiving break is when teams, are separated between who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to miss the playoffs. But we have enough data now to follow trends strongly one way or another. So, like I said, yeah, I hate to be one of those people too that jump on a streak if I missed it. My cutoff point for a streak is usually like 4 games. If something's past 4 games and it's keep going on, I'm not going to bet it because chances are I bet it. That's when the streak ends. So that's my rule of thumb generally. But like you said, if there's certain things you see within the trends, okay, a team's losing 8 games in a row, right? But or even I'll give you the perfect example. You mentioned about with Montreal about how when they score more than 3 goals, they win. If they don't, they lose. So you look for correlated things like that. You could, I haven't really been following it, but you really could be writing, team totals over or under based on that. So that's the thing. So when we have data build up, over a month, 2 months, now we can start looking at those trends and kind of, and you can piece together 2 of those trends strong enough and make a parlay. I know we kind of just chastise parlays and saying, oh, they're sucker bets, but no, if you find 2 things or more, even if you split a half a unit and you bet each thing individually, and then you put a quarter unit or a half unit on the parlay, sometimes that can work out for you.
Yeah, and it's funny because like you look at that kind of stuff, and with last year in the playoffs, when Montreal was on their big run, it was one of those funny things where I was betting a lot of their team total over 2.5, Alex. And some might say, well, why were you betting that? Why not them just to win? Because you can get the plus price because they were winning if they got there. But to be honest with you, it was kind of just a security blanket. Right. If they scored 3 goals, and ended up losing to the Vegas Golden Knights, I still cashed my wager. So I kind of went against my saying there as far as like the trends and what's backed it up there. But there were some games and some opportunities where I thought, geez, they might drop this game, to the Leafs or whoever and still end up getting 3 goals. But yeah, just wanted to mention that, Ian, when you kind of left there for a second, I was just talking about some of these teams that are just struggling so much, like Vancouver right now. I actually have a lean towards the over in this game. Columbus has not been impressing me defensively. You guys remember when they were a dead nut under team? There was a time and place where they were a team that was a countless under team. Yep. Now they're a team that can't really hold a lead. They're a team that can't play full 60 defensively in their own end. So I look towards the over here.
Yeah, I would lean that way. The one concern is Vancouver's now trying to revert to defensive 3 straight unders. They're trying to play tighter, and now the offense is dried up. So that's the one concern is what are you going to get from the Canucks here offensively? But
and that's definitely sorry to interrupt, but that's definitely a case of the offense drying up because they're focused on defense. We talk about this often, and that's something I think we see that. Yeah, and it happens. I think that happens more as the season goes along too, where if you're not because let's say Vancouver's not really a team that we can think of as just being defensively locked out team. If they're playing at their highest level, they're going to get 4 or 5 goals. They're still going to always kind of give up 2 or 3. Give or take, right? Like we're not expecting them to be a team. The whole team's the one goal or nothing on a given night, even when they're playing well. So right now they're getting crushed in games. So they're being so focused on the back end that they aren't playing well transitionally. They aren't getting enough. The passing hasn't really been that great either. That's something I really keep an eye on now with teams, how well you pass the puck, because honestly, especially when you're talking about long road trips, scheduling spots, fatigue, and different things, your passing needs to travel. If you can't pass the puck, you aren't getting chances to shoot the puck well. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing their collapse is coming from they're struggling so much defensively that they can't even get their offense rolling. So they're down 2 goals. Well, they're just screwed because now they're not going to just turn into this breakout team all of a sudden, get 2 or 3 goals to try to bounce back in the game.
That's right. And that when you're struggling, okay, well, we were scoring before, but we were giving up goals in bunches if you're Vancouver. So obviously in the last few games, they've tried to revert and say, let's really be tight. Let's be sound in our own zone. Let's not give up too much. Let's not give up odd man rushes. Let's not give up rush chances. Let's not do any of that or minimize that. And now all of a sudden the offense is harder to come by. And it's just you try to fix something, and all of a sudden another thing becomes broken. It's like taking your car to the mechanic, right? You get it fixed, and then they find something else wrong with it, and you get all pissed off at them all the time. So
that's why you got to go to the right mechanic, or else they'll just always tell you something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and that's what Vancouver's going through right now, and they're going through a lot. It has been a difficult stretch for them. Speaking of teams going through a very difficult stretch all season, Montreal. They're taking on Buffalo. Montreal minus 115 to minus 120 road favorites. 5.5. Actually, it's 6 now. Whoa, this one just zoomed right up to 6. There were 5.5s earlier, and I totally get why the 5.5s are being gobbled up in this game. As far as the total goes, there should be goals. I got a 5.5 over the total. I still like it at 6. We know what this Buffalo team is doing defensively, and that's pretty hideous right now. They're giving up goals in bunches.
It's like junior hockey for them, man.
It is.
It's like,
man.
it's ridiculous.
It's really bad. Breakdowns left and right. Penalty killing stinks all of a sudden, but they are offensively capable. And look, Montreal's been a disaster at times in their own end. None more than the Washington game the other night. I can't believe what a bad first period that was for the Montreal Canadiens. And it really started. They had a decent first couple shifts, Montreal. But then, you know what? Washington got the first goal of that game after a play that I saw Andrew's Twitter made him angry in that Montreal-Washington game. Another missed net from the point shot Petrie.
You like that nickname? You like that?
Yeah, and then Washington scored the first goal like right after that. And then
he takes a penalty. And then he takes a penalty and they're up 2. Like that first period is single-handedly on one player. And I never say stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I want to get that trended. I'm going to you know what? I might start selling t-shirts that just say point shot Petrie.
Exactly. His game's declined. The whole blue line is it's so sad to see it, to be honest with you, just from how good that team played in their own end on the blue line with the big four collectively, Edmondson, Sherratt, Weber, and Petrie, in that run to the Stanley Cup final. And now it's completely come unglued. So I think Buffalo, believe it or not, can find the back of the net because, look, Montreal's hemorrhaging goals right now. We sure as hell know Buffalo is as well. So this is an easy decision for me to go over the total in this game. It's going to be Montembeault in net, by the way, for the Canadiens tonight. That is confirmed. He'll be in net, 3.58 goals against, 8.97 save percentage. So not very good numbers for him. Buffalo should be able to find the back of the net, but Montreal should too. What I like too is Cole Caulfield to score a goal tonight.
I was just going to ask you. I was literally just going to say, I know you were going to do that.
You know why? And you know
that
why?
Was minus 200. Ian was going to take him tonight.
You know why? A guy that's got nothing going for him, and he finally gets a goal the other night against Washington. And you know, with a guy that can find the back of the net, has the offensive talent and the finish that he does, all it takes usually is scoring one to maybe get on a little bit of a hot streak. So there you go, Cole Caulfield, anytime goal scorer tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. Look, he should be able to find the back of the net with his talent against this sieve defense right now of the Buffalo Sabres. And so you can get that at about plus 250, in a lot of spots. A pretty good price there. And I think someone that might get on a little bit of a hot streak. They need someone to, and maybe Caulfield, after finally scoring and lighting the lamp the other night against Washington, he can be someone for the Canadiens to maybe get on a bit of a run. Alex, what do you think here? Habs, Sabres.
This is going to be a pass for me. I wanted the over 5.5, and then I realized Montembeault was going to be starting, and all of a sudden they turned to 6. Maybe I'll get something live if it drops down, but 6 is just a bit touchy for me. I don't see where this is going to be a back and forth battle like that. If anything, I can see the game falling right on 6. So maybe a live over play, but more than likely it's going to be a pass. There's other stuff I like in the card tonight.
Yeah, the people in the chat were talking. Rangers Bruins just started good pace. Bruins have had a very good start. They've been in the Rangers end a few times, buzzing around the front of the net. It's been a good pace.
Right. I'm going to grab that first period over.
These camera angles are sweet.
So you're seeing in action right now, firsthand, the strategy Alex often likes to do with first period overs, likes to use, and that's wait for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the first period to elapse.
Plus 160 right now.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, if there's a goal in the next 3-4 minutes and it's 1-0, and all of a sudden you got plus 160 and you got the whole back half of the period to get another goal. So it's all about timing and getting the timing right in a lot of instances with live betting. So, you're definitely getting a better price with that right now. All right, we got just 3 games left. We got Colorado and Dallas next up. Colorado minus 125. Road favorites, 5.5. Oh, sorry, Andrew. Did you say something about Montreal Buffalo? No, you didn't. Go ahead.
Okay. That's okay, man. I'll honestly just agree with you guys on the over. That's one thing I liked. Buffalo and Columbus. Ever since that game where I had Columbus money line, wasn't too long ago. I just realized, like, holy shit, these teams are playing junior level defense right now, and it's not even pretty. I mean, you know, there's some teams you watch, and you're just like, you just don't want to bet overs with. It's like, oh my goodness, like they're locking it down, great defense, goaltending. Both these teams right now, it's not that at all. And the thing is with the Habs, that old fashioned saying, guys, when it rains, it pours. That's them with Perreault having two, not just one, two goals go off his body. You could make a really funny video of just a compilation of the expression on Montreal Canadiens players' faces after they get scored on. Romanov looking like he saw a ghost after a puck went in off his leg, and just some crazy events. And this Buffalo team, they give up so many odd man rushes. And let's not forget, Montreal, one thing about them, they do score off the rush. They're not really a team that scores 5-on-5 because they aren't that, big, really. They score off the rush with their speed. I kind of feel like I'm talking about basketball. They're talking about, half court, but they score more so off the counterattack than they really do, cycling the puck around. So, this could be an example to kind of pull the Alex B and to look, a couple minutes into the game and try and get a live 5.5 and avoid the 6.
Yeah, I agree. It's something maybe to wait in game for this one and get a better number, kind of like what Alex just did with the first period over here with the Rangers and the Bruins. All right, Colorado, Dallas, Colorado minus 125, road favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. The more this price comes down, the more I'm interested in Colorado, because even without, McKinnon and Comfer, Bo Byram, they've still been able to win games. Now, it's not always been pretty, but 6 straight wins, it's hard to argue with that. They've played very good hockey without some key players. They've also been a 7-1 over the total team in their last 8 games, the Colorado Avalanche. So they've had no problem scoring the last several games. You look at it, the 6-game win streak, majority of these games without McKinnon and Comfer, who is, a third-line player that can definitely chip in offensively for you. And we've seen Colorado score 7, 6, 4, 7, 7, and 5 goals in the last 6 games during this win streak. So been pretty impressive. Dallas coming off a nice 4-1 win against Edmonton. That's now back-to-back home wins for them. That's now 4 straight home wins for the Dallas Stars. So that's the one thing that's holding me back here. Stars are playing some of their best hockey of the year. Why are they all of a sudden playing well? Well, it's because all of a sudden they're getting some of their better players to step up. It really is that simple for the Dallas Stars. All of a sudden, Tyler Seguin has started to find the back of the net and get going. Jamie Benn has started to get going. And they've definitely had some of their better players that they count on forward-wise stepping up for them lately. So I lean Colorado. I still might bet them if this price gets shorter because it's still a better Colorado team in my mind. But the one thing that shocked me here is, well, we know Colorado's trended over. We know Dallas, believe it or not, has kind of trended over, and the over is 6-1 in the last 7 meetings between the Avalanche and the Stars. It's we talked about this with Florida, Washington. Colorado versus Dallas has usually been goals and high scoring contests. And again, 6-1 to the over in the last 7 head-to-head meetings between these two teams. So not only am I probably going to bet Colorado at the best price I can find right before puck drop, but at 5.5, I'm going to get in with the over here with the Avs and the Stars. I mean, that's a series history that's difficult to ignore. What do you think here, Alex? Colorado, Dallas.
All right, we got to be a little cautious with the series history because keep in mind that was the playoff series back in the bubble in Edmonton for most of those games. So that's something we do have to kind of keep in mind. Yep. But current form definitely supports both these going over. I like the first period over here, which we don't say that often with Dallas. They're usually a first period under team, but Colorado is top of the pops as far as not only first period over, but goal scored in the first 10 minutes as well. So I think they get off to a fast start here, and I think Dallas will be more than likely to oblige and probably get a goal of their own. So it feels like it's going to be a back and forth pace kind of game. So I'd grab the $1.25 now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because you look at it, August and September 2020, that was that playoff series. And I remember that playoff series, Colorado, Dallas, and Colorado remember they were down to Michael Hutchinson in net in that series. So there's a reason there were a lot of overs in that. Those were all the 6-1 is all those that 7-game playoff series. That's every single one of those games in that 6-1 stretch to the over was that playoff series between the two teams a couple years ago in the bubbles, or last year, I should say, in the bubbles. So keep that in mind for sure. That's a good point. But again, current form, both teams are trending over. So I'm still going to go ahead with it. Andrew, what do you think here? Colorado, Dallas.
It's hard to argue with going against the over here. You can't. I like both these teams to get some goals. But I mean, the thing is about Colorado, they've been involved in lots of overs, but it's not just been them doing the scoring. We've seen 7 goals scored for them and, two of their last 3 games, which is insane. Dallas being involved in some high scoring games themselves. And it's not like we're seeing a 6.5 here or a 6 here, and we're asking them to get to 6 goals here for us. And this could be another game here where I'll look for the third period over, a lot of people bet those even before the game starts, but if we see kind of a 3-2 game, 2-2 going into the third period here, I'll be taking that third period over for sure.
All right, third period over, potentially look at that as well, says Andrew. All right,
and it's funny, guys, I'll be honest, I don't like to come on here and just talk about juice, but some of those bets, because I don't make them often, I don't mind laying juice on them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here because there's too many times with third period overs where you're going to say, you know what, it's minus 160 now. I'll wait till it gets to 130 and all of a sudden a goal's been scored and, you missed out. So if I'm committed with those kind of wagers.
And you make a good point too, because one thing I like to do with third period overs, usually during the playoffs, would be jump on the live full game over. So let's say, it's a 2-2 game, and then all of a sudden you see, 5.5, for the full game over at the beginning of the third period and intermission. Now the books to protect themselves, they would make that number 6.5. So essentially taking that 1.5 for the third period to a 2.5. So yeah, sometimes it's better to lay a price if you feel comfortable with that third period over than trying to wait, because the books are catching on to that, and so they're protecting themselves by adding that their other half or a full goal altogether.
And you guys have seen me do it on the show sometimes, the live betcast last year. I'll do sometimes half unit on the let's say it's like a live over 4.5 at a juice price, and then a half unit on the really good plus price on 5.5.
Yeah,
it's a good strat. You're right. The over 1.5 third period value before the period even starts, it's gone. You're going to have to wait probably until the third period, a few minutes in to get a better price. You're going to have to lay a significant price on a third period over now if you bet it before the third period starts during a game. So
big kill there for the Bruins on the power play, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's been a good game though. Good, back and forth, really solid so far. Rangers and Bruins. Good way to start a huge day of hockey. Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Islanders. We got Pittsburgh minus 145, road favorites, 5.5. The total shaded to the under. I'm not going to complicate it. You could even go puck line for greater value, but I'm just going to play it safe, conservative, minus 140 on Pittsburgh on the money line here. With the Penguins, it's just difficult to see the Islanders winning hockey games right now with this lineup that's completely ravaged and depleted with the injuries, with the COVID-19 issues that they are dealing with, and I'm not sure they're getting anybody back for this game, which makes things just as difficult. It's Josh Bailey, Anders Lee, Brock Nelson up front, and it is a defense core that now is down 4 of their top 6 defensemen. They were the other night against the Rangers. We all love the Rangers in some form in that game. They got the job done 4-1. And Gerard Gallant said, just put pucks behind the defense and make them work, make them have to, defend and pivot in their own zone. And you're going to be able to find openings and break them down, break down that very young, inexperienced Islander defense. And the Rangers did that much better as the game went on after a bit of a slow start. And I think Pittsburgh's going to try to do the same. And look, you got one of the best, players in the league, Crosby, in terms of keeping cycles alive in the offensive zone, keeping pucks alive, just working the offensive zone. And I can just see the Islanders defensemen just getting run amok, being put through the freaking assembly line, the meat grinder, whatever you want to call it, trying to defend the Crosby line on some of these shifts in this game tonight with that very young, inexperienced, very ravaged blue line at the moment. So it definitely sets up as what should be a victory here for the Penguins against a completely undermanned Islanders team, and a Penguins team playing their best hockey of the year. They've been on an absolute roll. It started with that road trip through Canada, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, beating all 3 of those teams. They come back home and put the boots to Vancouver the other night. So Pittsburgh minus 140 for me. No need to overthink it. Alex, what do you think here, Penguins Islanders?
Yeah, keep in mind too, this is the first time these two teams are meeting since the playoffs when the Islanders bounced the Penguins out. So this is definitely going to be a spot, I think, that's been circled here with Pittsburgh going into the new barn for the Islanders, where they have yet to record a victory in 3 tries. So like I said, things are just going from bad to worse for the Islanders right now. I'm going to go Pittsburgh at even money in regulation.
All right, Pittsburgh plus 100 in regulation for Alex. Andrew, Penguins and Islanders.
I mean, you guys know what I've locked in already. I'm going to kind of stick with that, but I do think this game could be an over game because I looked at it with the Islanders last game. I did end up on that New York Rangers puck line. Jimmy really hyped it up, and he really put me over the edge with that wager. But I feel like this game could be the one we finally see some offensive explosion. So we'll see. I mean, I still don't trust New York's defense, but I feel like they'll start putting some in. And you know, when you don't have guys in the lineup for a couple games, you eventually start getting cohesion with the guys that are out there. Pittsburgh's played well defensively recently, but I think that between their scoring and the Islanders maybe catching them off guard, we could see some goals in this one as well. But that Ducks and Pens parlay plus 160, guys, hard to argue that price.
Yes, that's the second half of that two-team parlay for Andrew, Anaheim and Pittsburgh. Now, the one concern with the over here is just, and I thought maybe they could contribute against the Rangers, but 1-0-2, 1-1-0-2-2 in the last 8 games for this Islanders team. And now they've got no Brock Nelson, and now they've got no Anders Lee, and, you know, they've still got Barzal, obviously, and Beauvillier, but even they haven't done enough, I think, considering the manpower they're without. They've got to step their game up in a time like this, and they haven't really done that lately offensively, and we know the defense is compromised with 4 of 6 starting defensemen out right now, so issues galore. This is really for Barry Trotz and the Islanders. Get through this stretch, get your guys back, and hopefully keep your head above water and don't sink to the bottom during this really rough stretch that they're going through right now. Because of all the player absences. All right, the final game on this 13-game card, Toronto Maple Leafs, San Jose Sharks. Toronto minus 150, road favorites here, 6 the total for the most part across the board in this one. Toronto Maple Leafs, I think they were due for an offensive explosion at some point with the talent on hand, and it happened against the LA Kings, 6-2 victory for the Leafs in that game. Against the LA Kings. Very impressive offensive display. Maybe it was because they were on TNT. I mean, Alex talked about it. I think it's definitely something to keep in mind. They don't get many of those opportunities to be on a nationally televised game south of the border. They were on Wednesday against LA, and that was one of the best, certainly offensive displays we've seen from the Leafs in a while. Everybody contributed. Tavares, Matthews, Marner. They were all very good in that hockey game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So very impressive offensive showing. And we know they're capable of doing that. Even though they've played these lower scoring, defensive-minded games lately, they certainly have been a team that is more than capable offensively. We just haven't seen it because they've been winning these games 2-1, 3-2. They're like, hey, we'll score when we need to. We'll take care of our own end. But the floodgates opened up for them against Quick and the Kings the other night. Very fascinating to see how this one goes. I got to think Toronto might score some goals here because, you know, I know James Reimer's in net probably for San Jose, and he continues to play relatively well here for the San Jose Sharks. But I think the Leafs might be able to score some goals against him. And to be honest, Ottawa scored 3 the other night. They could add a lot more. I didn't think that was a good defensive game for the Sharks. They're very fortunate Ottawa didn't score more than they did the other night. And on the flip side, the Leafs have already confirmed that they are going to give Jack Campbell a rest tonight, and they're going to go with Joseph Wall in net. And he's been a wall, as in a brick wall, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's played really well, this young kid. Now, can he keep it going now? He's had a couple of starts, couple of wins. He's played well, but, you know, you get more of an ability to scout what kind of style he has in net if you're the opponent. Can he maintain this level of play indefinitely? That's the big question. But so far, the young kid has made the saves when they've needed to be made, and you give him credit for that. So I still lean to the Leafs here. They're playing good hockey. I don't trust San Jose. They probably should have lost to Ottawa the other night. If Ottawa gets adequate goaltending, the Senators beat the Sharks, I think, the other night. So I lean Toronto in regulation here. You can get that close to even money, and I would lean over the total, even though Toronto's been an under team. They got an offensive outburst the other night. I don't trust San Jose's defense. You do have the young kid Wall in net for Toronto, so maybe San Jose can contribute to the scoring as well because of that. So Leafs in regulation over the total if I'm betting this game from a side and total perspective. Alex, what do you think here, Leafs and Sharks?
I'm going to go the old not so fast, my friend. I am going with San Jose here, plus $1.35 here. Like I said, Wall's played well in the first 2 games. There's no way I'm backing him to just go on this hot run. I don't think he's that kind of a goalie. He's a formidable backup at best, in my opinion. And he's played, the spot that he's played. You look at that last game with the Islanders. He's gotten some decent spots to lead to his 2 wins. I think here there's going to be, especially this is kind of a empty the clip theory with Toronto. They had a ton of goals in that blowout against LA. And like I said, something to keep an eye on now with these national TV games here in the U.S., especially. They microphoned Austin Matthews, of course, is a West Coast guy. He seemed to be really fired up and stuff. And it was interesting to kind of see that from him. That second period outburst they had was just phenomenal. But we've seen their offense kind of go cold at times. They still were moving the puck like shit in that game for the most part. It was just LA's breakdowns defensively. It was LA giving up 5 and 6 goals, not so much Toronto scoring them. So I think San Jose at home here at a plus price. Don't back them that often these days, but I think this is a good spot to fade the young goalie, and Sharks get a win at home here.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely undersold San Jose at times this year. We'll see if they can rise up, get the win as home dogs. Alex liking them plus 130 here in this game tonight. Andrew, Leafs Sharks.
I hate to break it to you, Ian. I got to say, I waited to say this. You might not be the first person to make that "he was a wall" joke.
Everybody and his brother that follows hockey and comments on hockey is going to probably say the same thing. I agree.
Yeah.
But I'll be real with you. I have said that, and I've said that already today. So that's why I said that. But yeah, this is one of those games where I think a lot of people are going to see if they can get the West Coast sweep. And I'm kind of looking towards another over. This is a team that I've given a lot of respect to the Leafs for playing to the under, playing good defense, and I've had to tip my cap to it. But I feel like get the longer this road trip goes, we saw an offensive explosion last game for them. I think we'll see it again here today from both teams find the back of the net.
I'll throw this out because it applies to this game, and Alex won't want to hear it because he's on the Sharks here, but I got to say it anyway. The Leafs have been not just good, they've been phenomenal in avenging situations. When they lost the previous meeting to that team, they've almost always beaten them the next time. It happened a lot last year during the regular season. It's happened this year. Remember, they lost to LA and Toronto. What happened Wednesday night? Beat LA, and they lost to San Jose and Toronto earlier this year, and they beat them in the revenge meeting tonight. They've been good in these spots. The Leafs avenging a loss to that same team the last time they played them. So we'll see if that trend follows through tonight for the Leafs as they take on the San Jose Sharks. What a show. Terrific. Lots of fun with Alex B. Smith, Andrew McInnis breaking down this massive 13-game Friday card. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, hit the like button. Make sure you do that. It helps us out immensely. And we will be back, of course, tomorrow at noon Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys. And we will be looking forward to that for sure. Noon Eastern tomorrow. A smaller card. Crazy as it is to say, the Saturday card is actually smaller than today's card. So definitely we are looking forward to breaking down, though, the Saturday card. Sunday is going to be a different type of show. It's a short card. I'm going to just do a brief little pre-recorded edition of the Ice Guys. We'll give our crew the day off on Sunday, Andrew, Alex, and Jimmy. And I'll just do a brief pre-recorded show to break down the Sunday card. I'm off to the East semifinal to watch my Ticats in action against the Montreal Alouettes on Sunday, and looking forward to that game. And I got to be out of here early on Sunday. So I'll just do a very brief show early Sunday morning, record it. It'll air still at 12 Eastern, like it always does on a Sunday, and we'll break down the Sunday card. So that's the next 2 days right here on the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us live.
I'm cheering for your team too, Ian, just so you know. I'll be cheering for your guys because I want you to be able to see a Grey Cup where they're involved. I mean, if the Grey Cup is in your hometown, hopefully they're there.
Well, they haven't just been good. They've been phenomenal for the last 5 to 10 years in these home playoff games. Like, I can't even remember the last time they lost a home playoff game. They have been just dynamite. It's been on the road in the playoffs where they've had the issues, the Ticats.
And I read it online too. It's a blackout for that game, right?
It is indeed. Yep. So that's never a problem for me. 90% of the time I'm wearing a black outfit of some kind. So it's my favorite color to wear anyway. So it works perfectly for me. Giddy up. Count me in when it comes to the blackout for sure on Sunday for the Alouettes and the Ticats. I'm just double checking. We'll get to best bets in just a second. Lankinen is confirmed for the Chicago Blackhawks. Interesting. I just want to confirm what Miss Danica is saying in the chat here. Yes, it is Kevin Lankinen in net here for the Blackhawks. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I thought it would be Fleury here, a day game at home against a division opponent, but Kevin Lankinen will be the guy in net here for the Blackhawks.
I'd be more tempted to look at the first period over now with that.
Yeah.
I might jump in live. Like I still want to see tempo and with that game, but I'd be a little bit more. And this somebody asked me about that in the chat earlier, so I'd be a little bit more prone to betting that first period over now with Lakin as opposed to Fleury.
Yeah, definitely.
I gotta say, guys, 14-3 right now in shots in this Rangers Bruins game. I think the second period is going to be a wild one. This could be a typical Bruins low-scoring game that has every single chance to go over and doesn't. But
Bruins up 1-0 right now. This game should be tied because the Rangers had two wide open chances earlier, and then one of them actually led to them being on the penalty kill. So
when I'm at a hockey game, there's nothing worse than those like casual fans that just yell "shoot it" all the time.
I hate that.
But honestly, on that power play the Rangers had, I probably would have been thinking the same thing. They didn't get one shot.
Yeah, they've been gun shy lately in this period so far, and that's something to kind of maybe keep an eye on moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a brutal turnover that led to the Boston goal. But yeah, definitely good start, though. Good game, though, to get the day going. It's a huge day of hockey. We're looking forward to it. Again, join us noon Eastern on Saturday, and we'll be back again with you on the Ice Guys to break down the Saturday card. Thanks to everyone for joining us. We will wrap up the show with best bets, as we always do. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Well, if you're watching this now, you'll be able to grab this early. I don't know if you'll be able to get this if you're listening to the podcast, but we're going to go with the Flyers plus $1.35 as my best bet. If you are listening to the podcast, I would say, of course, our sponsor, DraftKings, check out their NHL, the NCAA, I should say, college hockey lines. I really love that over with the Gophers and they used to be called the Fighting Sioux. I don't know what their nickname is now, but it's North Dakota and Minnesota over 6 minus $1.10. That's the college hockey play I like for tonight. But for today's purposes, we will go with the Philadelphia Flyers plus $1.35 as my best bet. Also want everybody to check out our Ice Guys store, which is iceguys.myspreadshot.com. We have a Black Friday sale, 25% off of everything that expires at midnight tonight.
All right, there you go. Make sure you check it out, the Ice Guys store. Great merch, great gear. Cop yourself some for sure. If you haven't done so already. All right, Andrew, you're next up. What do you like for your Friday best bet?
Short and sweet here. Tampa regulation minus 110 is what I locked in here. I'm going to challenge the Kraken to go on the road and beat a quality team. I don't think they can do it.
All right, Seattle and Tampa Bay. Andrew liking Tampa Bay in regulation, minus 110 for his best bet. And I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, minus 140. Don't overcomplicate it. I had that 3-pack of best bets on Wednesday. I went 2-1. One of the winners was fading the Islanders. And we're going to go back to the well again here tonight. Pittsburgh, minus 140 against the New York Islanders. That is going to be my best bet for this Friday NHL card. Just a depleted Islanders team and now facing a Penguins team that's on an absolute roll right now. Tough spot once again for the Islanders with this undermanned group at the moment. Pittsburgh minus 140 for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live on YouTube 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download that podcast whenever you can't tune in live to the Ice Guys. For Andrew McInnis, for Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Saturday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.